All right, buckle up, everyone, because we're diving headfirst into not one, but TWO lunar missions that are making some serious waves right now.
Yeah, it's pretty wild, actually.
We're talking about Blue Ghost and Resilience.
Both just launched. Yeah, just a few days ago on January 15th, 2025. And they're both, you guessed it, headed straight for the moon.
It's pretty incredible to think about.
Oh, absolutely. And what's really cool is they're both packed with a ton of tech experiments and scientific instruments.
It's all part of NASA's CLPS program.
Exactly.
And now some of you might be thinking, CLPS, what in the world is that?
Right.
Well, it's essentially NASA teaming up with private companies to get all sorts of things delivered to the moon.
It is. It's kind of like think of it like a space-age UPS.
Yeah, space-age delivery service.
Delivering right to the moon.
Exactly.
But it's not just about the deliveries themselves. This points to something much, much bigger.
Yeah, I mean, we're really starting to see a true lunar economy take shape.
It really is.
You know, just imagine lunar resources being mined and used to build infrastructure in space.
That's exactly the kind of future these missions are paving the way for.
It's pretty wild to think about.
Yeah.
It really is a super exciting time to be following all of this.
Oh, absolutely. And what makes this even more interesting is just how different these two missions actually are.
Right.
You've got Blue Ghost, which is purely focused on science, like unraveling some of the moon's biggest mysteries.
Big questions about the moon.
Exactly. And then on the other hand, you've got Resilience, which is bringing a very commercial focus to this whole thing, testing out technologies for actually living and working on the moon.
I've got to say, the name Resilience really speaks to me.
Well, yeah.
Yeah, it's got this can-do attitude about it, especially after what happened with Space's first lunar lander.
Right. Their Hakuto R lander.
Yeah.
It unfortunately crashed last year during its landing attempt.
It was a tough break.
It was. But what's incredible is that Space took all those lessons they learned, applied them to Resilience, and now they're back at it.
They are. It's like Resilience in action.
It really is.
It feels like we're in this new lunar race, you know?
Yeah.
I mean, everyone's suddenly talking about going back to the moon. And it's not just governments anymore.
No.
It's private companies, too.
Exactly. It does feel that way. And I think you can actually trace some of this excitement back to, remember the Google Lunar X Prize?
Oh, of course. That was such a cool concept. Like a competition to land a rover on the moon and complete all these different tasks.
Exactly. And while it ultimately ended without a clear winner, it really, really ignited a passion for lunar exploration in the private sector. It showed that going to the moon wasn't just this pipe dream, it was actually something within reach.
It's like that spark lit a fire under everyone.
It did.
And now we have all these amazing missions popping up, like Blue Ghost and Resilience, just pushing the boundaries of what's possible.
Pushing the boundaries. So let's actually talk about the companies behind these missions. We've got Firefly Aerospace, based in Texas, leading the Blue Ghost mission. And then you have ispace, a Japanese company based in Tokyo, leading the Resilience mission.
Yeah, it's truly a global effort.
It really is. It's not just the companies either. It's the people, too. There are some really interesting figures involved in all this, like take Jason Kim, for instance, the CEO of Firefly Aerospace.
What's interesting about him is that he's not just focused on the technology. He's genuinely excited about the potential of this lunar economy that's starting to develop. He sees the moon as this incredible resource hub that could actually fuel future space exploration.
And benefit all of humanity in the process.
Absolutely.
And then on the ispace side, you've got Junpei Nozaki, their CFO, and even after that Hakuto R crash, he's remarkably confident about Resilience's chances of success.
You can tell they've learned a lot from that experience, and they're applying those lessons to this new mission.
Exactly. And of course, we can't forget about NASA's role in all of this.
Right. I mean, they're the ones funding these missions through the CLPS program.
They are. And you've got people like Pam Melroy, Nicola Fox, Chris Colbert, all singing the praises of Blue Ghost and Resilience, emphasizing just how crucial these missions are, not just to the Artemis program, but to the future of lunar science as a whole.
Yeah, and it seems like everyone is just buzzing about the sheer amount of science that these missions are going to bring back. I mean, we're talking a record number of payloads here. It's like Christmas for lunar scientists.
It really is. It's not just about the quantity of data either. It's about the quality. These missions are carrying some incredibly sophisticated instruments capable of gathering data that we've never even had access to before.
It's mind-blowing.
It really is.
Speaking of mind-blowing, did you know that Resilience is actually carrying a piece of art to the moon?
Yeah, it's true. A Swedish artist named Michael Genberg created this miniature red house. It's called the Moon House, and it's actually hitching a ride on resilience.
I love that. It's like this little piece of humanity being sent to the moon. Amidst all this amazing technology and science, it's just this beautiful reminder that exploration isn't just about data and discoveries.
No.
It's about our dreams and aspirations, too.
It's a really beautiful touch. But speaking of science, let's talk about Blue Ghost and its pretty impressive scientific payload.
Yeah.
It's carrying 10 NASA instruments. That's the biggest CLPS delivery yet.
It's jam-packed with science. Okay, so let's dive into some of these instruments. One that really caught my eye is LISTER.
LISTER.
The Lunar Interior Temperature and Materials Suite.
Ah, LISTER. It's essentially going to be drilling into the moon.
Drilling?
Yeah, to study its thermal history. You can almost think of it like taking the moon's temperature.
Oh, wow.
But in a much, much more sophisticated way.
So it's like a super high-tech lunar thermometer.
Kind of.
That's incredible.
But it does more than just take a simple temperature reading. It analyzes the different layers of the lunar subsurface to understand how heat flows within the moon. And that helps scientists piece together the moon's thermal evolution over billions of years.
It's like looking back in time.
Exactly.
To see how the moon's interior has changed and cooled over time.
Exactly.
Wow, that's fascinating. So LISTER's digging deep. But then you've got LPV.
LPV.
The Lunar Planet Vac.
Okay.
Which is more like, almost like a space vacuum cleaner.
It is.
What's the story with that one?
LPV is, well, it's pretty cool. It uses compressed gas to suck up lunar regolith.
Regolith?
Yeah, that's that loose dust and rock on the moon's surface.
Okay.
And getting a good sample of this regolith is crucial for all sorts of research. We can analyze it to understand the moon's composition, look for signs of water ice, even figure out how to use it as a resource for building things on the moon.
So it's not just about cleaning up the lunar surface.
No.
It's collecting valuable scientific samples. And then there's NGLR, the Next Generation Lunar Retroreflector. What's so retro about this one?
NGLR is a pretty clever device, actually. It's like a super accurate lunar distance measurer. Scientists on Earth can bounce lasers off of it.
Lasers?
Lasers, yep, to determine the distance between the Earth and the moon down to the millimeter.
Wow.
But, and here's where it gets really interesting, that data also helps us understand the moon's interior structure.
Wait, hold on. How can measuring distance tell us what's happening inside the moon?
It all has to do with how the moon wobbles slightly in its orbit. By precisely tracking those wobbles using NGLR, we can learn about the distribution of mass within the moon, including the size and composition of its core.
Wow, it's amazing how much information you can get from just one little instrument.
It is.
So I've got LISTER digging deep, LPV vacuuming up regolith, NGLR measuring lunar wobbles. What else does Blue Ghost have up its sleeve?
Well, there's RAC, the Regolith Adherence Characterization Experiment. Now, this one might sound kind of simple, but it's addressing a huge challenge for future lunar missions.
Okay, I'm intrigued. What is it?
Moon dust.
Moon dust.
Yeah, it gets everywhere.
Oh, I see.
And it's incredibly abrasive. It can damage equipment, clog up mechanisms, and even pose a health risk to astronauts.
Yeah, that makes sense.
So RAC is designed to study just how sticky moon dust is and how it interacts with different materials. And this will help us design better spacesuits, rovers, and habitats that can withstand that harsh lunar environment.
So RAC is like a lunar dust detective,
Yes.
figuring out how to keep everything clean and functional up there.
Exactly. And speaking of keeping things clean, there's EDS, the Electrodynamic Dust Shield.
This one sounds cool.
Oh, it's a really cool concept. It uses electric fields to create a sort of force field.
Like a force field.
Like a force field that repels dust particles. Imagine that. A dust-free zone on the moon.
Wow, that sounds straight out of science fiction.
It does.
I can't wait to see how that technology develops. But remember we talked about that lunar horizon glow that only Apollo astronauts have seen?
Yes. That's another exciting experiment on Blue Ghost. It's actually going to try and capture that glow in 4K high-definition video.
Okay, I have to admit, I'm not entirely sure what the lunar horizon glow even is.
Right.
Can you maybe paint a picture for our listener?
Absolutely. So imagine you're standing on the moon, right? And you're looking towards the horizon just before sunrise or after sunset. The lunar sky would be dark, but just above the horizon, you'd see this faint band of light, almost like a halo. That's the lunar horizon glow. It's caused by sunlight scattering off of those dust particles in the very, very thin lunar atmosphere.
So it's like a subtle but really ethereal light show.
Yeah, I think so.
I can see why it would be so captivating. And Blue Dose is going to capture it in all its high-definition glory.
That's the plan.
That's incredible.
Yeah.
It'll be like seeing the moon with fresh eyes.
It really will. But while Blue Ghost is busy collecting all this data, Resilience has its own pretty critical challenge.
Right, sticking that landing after that unfortunate experience with Hakuto R.
Exactly. Remember, their new landing site is Mare Frigoris.
Right, Mare Frigoris. It's a much flatter area than their previous landing site, which should give them a better chance of success.
It should. And once they land, they've got their rover, Tenacious, ready to roll. Now, it is a small rover, but it has a big job to do.
What's on Tenacious's to-do list?
Well, its primary mission is to collect a sample of lunar regolith. But this time, they're targeting a very specific type of regolith that might contain water ice.
Ooh, water ice on the moon. That's a game changer, isn't it?
It really is. If we can find and utilize water ice on the moon, it opens up so many possibilities for future lunar exploration. We could use it for drinking water, for growing plants, and even for producing rocket fuel.
That's pretty mind-blowing.
Yeah.
It really does feel like these missions are laying the groundwork for a future where humans can actually live and work on the moon.
It does. And speaking of lunar living, Resilience is carrying some really interesting experiments in that department, too.
Right.
They're testing a water electrolyzer, which can split water into hydrogen and oxygen. And they've also got an algae-based food production module.
Wow.
These are absolutely crucial technologies for creating a self-sustaining lunar outpost.
It's like they're packing for a lunar camping trip.
It is.
But instead of tents and sleeping bags, they've got high-tech gadgets that could revolutionize space exploration. And of course, we can't forget about the moon house, that little red house hitching a ride on Resilience.
It's a great reminder that even amidst all this cutting-edge technology, there's still room for art and human expression.
Yeah, I love that idea. It's like we're sending a little piece of our culture, our creativity to the moon.
It's a powerful symbol.
Oh.
But let's get back to the journey itself. Blue Ghost is taking a much shorter, more direct path to the moon. They're aiming to land around March 2nd, 2025.
So Blue Ghost is taking the express route.
You could say that. Resilience, on the other hand, is taking a more leisurely approach.
Okay.
Their trajectory is longer, uses less energy. It'll take them about 4 or 5 months to reach the moon.
It's interesting how they have these different approaches, but they both have limited mission durations, right?
They do.
How long can these missions actually operate on the moon?
Well, Blue Ghost is designed to operate for about 2 weeks. It's powered by solar panels, so its lifespan is limited by the availability of sunlight.
So Blue Ghost is on a tight schedule. What about Resilience?
Resilience could potentially operate for longer, but it really all depends on a successful landing and how well their systems hold up in that harsh lunar environment.
So it's a nail-biting wait for the ispace team. But even if these missions are relatively short, they're still laying the foundation for future, longer-term lunar endeavors.
Absolutely. They're proving the technologies, gathering the data, paving the way for a sustainable human presence on the moon.
It's all so incredibly exciting.
It is.
And what makes it even more remarkable is this is just the beginning.
It is.
There are so many more lunar missions planned for the coming years.
Oh, yeah. There's Intuitive Machines with their IM-2 and IM-3 missions. And then you have Astrobotic. They've got their Griffin Mission 1 on the horizon.
The lunar party is just getting started.
It really is.
It feels like we're on the cusp of a whole new era of lunar exploration. So as we eagerly await the outcomes of Blue Ghost and Resilience, we want to hear from you, our listener. What stands out to you about these missions? What sparks your imagination? I mean, it is incredible to think about all the activity happening up on the moon right now.
It really is. It's like we're witnessing this huge turning point in space exploration.
Yeah, what's really striking to me is how these missions are challenging all these assumptions we have about what's possible.
I agree. Like just a few decades ago, the idea of private companies sending robots to the moon would have seemed crazy.
It would have. It would have seemed like science fiction.
Absolutely.
It's like we stepped into one of those sci-fi novels. We're sending robots to drill and vacuum and even build tiny houses on the moon. It's wild.
It is pretty mind-blowing. And it's not just about all the technological achievements either. You know, these missions really represent a shift in our whole perspective as humans.
Right, like expanding our horizons, quite literally, and pushing us to think way beyond our earthly boundaries.
Exactly.
You're right. It's about recognizing that humanity's future isn't just confined to this planet.
I agree.
We're a spacefaring species,
Yeah.
and the moon is our next stepping stone.
I think that's a great way to put it. And as we venture further out, the moon becomes even more important, too.
Yeah, how so?
Well, it's not just a scientific frontier anymore. It's a potential hub for resource utilization, you know?
Right.
It's a gateway to Mars and maybe even a launch pad for missions beyond our solar system.
It's like the moon is becoming this, bustling frontier town.
It is.
Full of opportunities and challenges, and these missions are helping us chart a course,
Yeah.
laying the groundwork for future generations to follow.
Exactly. And who knows what we might find as we continue to explore. Maybe we'll discover some new forms of life, unlock all the secrets of the universe, or even find ways to harness the moon's resources to solve some of Earth's most pressing problems.
The possibilities are endless.
They really are.
And that's what makes all of this so inspiring. It reminds us that we're capable of achieving really extraordinary things when we put our minds to it.
Absolutely. It's about pushing the boundaries of human knowledge, daring to dream big, and inspiring the next generation to reach for the stars. And these missions are doing exactly that.
That's beautifully put. Well, as we continue to follow the progress of Blue Ghost and Resilience, we'll be sure to keep you, our listener, updated on all their discoveries and achievements.
And as you follow along with us, we encourage you to stay curious, keep asking questions, keep exploring, and keep that sense of wonder alive, because the future of space exploration is really in all of our hands.
So, until our next deep dive, keep looking up and keep dreaming big.
Yeah.
You know, it's funny, I was just thinking about how just a few years ago, the moon felt so far away.
It did.
And now
it
it feels like everyone's going there.
I know. It's like suddenly the moon is the place to be.
Right. And what's really exciting is that it's not just about planting a flag anymore.
No, not at all. It's about so much more than that.
It's about building a future.
It is. It's about pushing the boundaries of what we think is possible as humans.
Exactly like we were saying earlier, these missions are really paving the way for a sustainable human presence on the moon.
And that presence, that's what's going to open up a whole universe of opportunities.
Literally.
Literally a whole universe.
I'm thinking about it. We could have lunar bases, research outposts, maybe even
Lunar cities?
lunar cities. Why not?
It sounds crazy, but
It does.
who knows? It could happen.
I mean, the technologies that are being developed right now, it's mind-blowing.
It is. The pace of innovation is incredible.
And it's not just about the technology either. It's about the spirit of exploration, the human desire to push beyond the known.
I think that's what's so captivating about these missions. It's that spirit of adventure, the sense of wonder.
It's like we're rediscovering the moon all over again.
And this time we're not just visiting, we're planning to stay.
It's a whole new chapter in human history, and it's just getting started.
That really is exciting times.
So what do you think is the most important thing for people to remember as they watch all of this unfold?
I think the most important thing is to never lose that sense of wonder.
Yeah.
To remember that we're capable of incredible things when we work together and set our sights on a common goal.
And that the moon is just the first step.
It is just the beginning.
Yeah.
Who knows where our curiosity will lead us next?
Well, on that note, I think it's time to wrap up this lunar deep dive.
I agree.
It's been an absolute pleasure exploring these missions with you.
The pleasure was all mine.
And to all of you listening out there, thank you for joining us.
Keep looking up and keep dreaming big.
We'll catch you on our next deep dive into the world of space exploration.